Hello, everyone. Once again, we have the Mr. Samir Penakalapati, who is the founder of CEIPAL and the CEO of Avani and IIC. Those are the multi-million dollars recruiting companies. Now, why we are here? Why we requested this gentleman to share his insight? Because you have no idea what is that coming forward, and there are so much of wisdom and insight that you are going to experience when we continue speaking and listening from this gentleman. So now let me welcome Mr. Samir Penakalapati to the show once again, and thank you so very much for accepting our invitation, sir, and ready to share your insight and wisdom with the recruiters tribe. So before we go into deep, so let me ask you the first question. Now we are in 2022. There is pandemic, there is no pandemic. There is vaccine, no vaccine. It's remote, no remote. How do you see this thing and how it is impacting recruiting world? Please share your views and let us know what is that we can expect.
Yeah, it's a broad question, though there is a little bit of humor, but it's a reality. Is from waiting for vaccine, we got a vaccine, you got a boosters, now back to work, halftime work, and then back to remote, and then who knows what happens, right? But I think what is these are all like moving parts and pieces, but what's going to be constant is going to be a permanent change, the way the consultant's going to be working. I think it's going to be most of the times it's going to be in a hybrid work environment, and at the same time with the recruiters too. I think the recruiters will have a lot more opportunities. For an example, in the past, whether you have an opportunity, work from home, very few percentage of the candidates are being accepted into work from home concept. Now it's a lot more bigger pool is available, especially when you have woman workforce. There are a lot more work pool available, the common pool available now, because now the companies are willing to take work from home employees or consultants. So I think it's an opportunity, and also it's a challenge to get used to it, this kind of environment. But I think 2022 is the year. I think we're going to kind of settle down, calm down all these uncertainties, and I think mid 2022 and beyond, it'll be a one sorry, it'll be a one a structure that will move on. I'm sure every customer is going to be different. Every recruiter's opportunities are different, but at least there will be some certainty that will foresee mid 2022 and beyond.
Awesome. That's a pretty nice insight. And yes, it has given some hope to the recruiters as well. Now, I was listening, I read it somewhere by it is from the American psychologist Anthony Clutch. What he says that now this pandemic has brought great resignation. We may call this a great resignation rather than a great recession. What do you think? I mean, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a misused term, great resignation. It is, by the numbers, it is a fact. This is true. We see a lot more resignations, but I think if you look at the underlying data, the great resignation is happening because of the large portion of baby boomers, and the people who close to the retirement age are actually permanently getting retired. And a lot of times in the past, the people are reaching to that retirement age. I said, okay, maybe I'll work for 2 more years, maybe another year, 2 years. They're kind of pushing around just because they're healthy and they're passionate and they wants to work. But by this 2020, 2021, what happened was there's a problem, like, hey, we're done with this, right? We work from home, all these things. We're done with it. We're permanently going and taking a retirement as a plan. So that happened way too much proportion, out of proportion of the population, permanently going into retirement. I think that's what happened with the Great Resignation. But if you're actually looking into the generation, millennials and Generation Z, and there are actually didn't have much change in terms of their taking up the job. I think more towards the older population permanently getting into retirement just because of these uncertainties into it that pushed the narrative of Great Resignation.
Interesting. So that's a different way of looking at things, and absolutely everything has its two sides of the coin. So thanks for sharing your insights on that. And now, along with the flexibility to work from home and have the flexibility of the hybrid culture, what we as a recruiter face certain challenges, Samir, that recruiter having a hard time in convincing candidates for the contract and contract to hire roles when it primarily comes to our domestic market, Indian market, where the candidates are showing their interest towards the full-time roles, but there are very less full-time roles available, looking at the current situations. So what would be your suggestion for this sort of situation?
Yeah. I think all these are market dynamics really played by the supply and demand, right? The supply of talent and demand of the talent. It's at a stage where it gets equilibrium. So what happens is if everybody wants a full-time job, there is a reason why, because I think now, if you actually pre-pandemic, right, people have given less importance to healthcare benefits in India, especially. Right. I said, well, what's my take home? I don't, they didn't pay much attention to healthcare. Now with this COVID and pandemic, and people have experienced a huge, a family burden with healthcare costs and hospitalizations of the family members and stuff. And people are paying attention to those healthcare costs involved. So I think that's one reason why it's pushing people to say, we'll take a full-time job, we'll have these medical benefits and stuff, right? But I think even for the contract workers, the companies are realizing that that's something that's an important for even the contract employees to get extended for it. But I think when it comes to a stage where they will not able to find anybody who can take up the contract roles. And I think the industry will look into it, options of providing such benefits to even extending those benefits to even the contractors in the near future. I think that's inevitable in the industry is going to happen. So I think when some of these things brings into picture, then it kind of okay, we're good. You have more flexibility. You have more hours in hand. You can pick a job. You can out of the job in time. And then those kind of flexibilities that you will not get it in a full time. But I think now with this pandemic, with the healthcare costs going up exponentially, I think when these contract jobs comes with these kind of benefits, I think it'll kind of smoothen out the demand curve. But for the recruiters, I think they will see the trend. What you're saying is absolutely true. But I think that will change because if you don't find contract employees to work on a project for a year or two, then I think these things will eventually gets into effect. And so I see this is going to happen even for the contract employees, extending some of these benefits irrespective of whether a full-time or contract.
All right. So hopefully it should work and release the burden from the recruiters' shoulders that they had having a hard time convincing these people in there. And absolutely, wherever there's a benefit, and if that gives enough reasons for them to choose over a full-time, and absolutely that could be an option for the candidate to choose and continue in the contract position.
Yeah, and also contract jobs provide a lot of flexibility, right? A lot of times these young millennials and the Generation Z, the youngsters, they wants to travel, they wants to take a break, they wants to do it. Okay, we want to work 10 months, 2 months, we want to just go travel around. Full-time job, you can't do it. But if there are enough of part-time jobs are available, there's a skilled demand for them. And why not? I think it's a great way to do it. Like work 10 hours, make money, 2 months travel, see the world and see the country, and then come back and start all over again. It's a great flexibility to have it. But I think the concern is some of these benefits on and some of these burdens out on it. So I hope this will change in the near future. But for now, yeah, I think recruiters constantly go back and talk to their employers and their hiring managers and give that constant feedback. I think it would really helps.
No, absolutely. I agree with that as well. So here, as we see the SIA report, Samir, so it gives a positive forecasting of growth this year in 2022 compared to 2020. But where do you see this industry is heading towards? And the second question I would like to include to the first one, that what would be the recruiter's future and what do you think there is something for us as a recruiter?
Yeah, the staffing industry is a huge market, right? Like US is about 147 billion staffing. Global staffing market is about $500 billion. And countries like US, UK, Japan, even the India is like, emerging staffing market. You see a lot of growth in the space. The recruiters used to be like a back office operations team that helps them. Now it becomes the core engine, because a lot of times if you see either global corporations or service organizations, right, surprisingly, a large percent of them not they don't have lack of customers, actually lack of talent that they need to have to support their customers. So the talent is scarce now, and finding different ways of talent is the key. So if the recruiters are knowledgeable enough in the areas they support their clients, also they are trained enough in using latest technology platforms and tools like CEIPAL, for an example, and this is tremendous opportunity for them to bridge that gap of the need. I mean, right now, because we are in the midst of companies are transforming from older on-premise to the cloud and onto new technology areas, right? So you don't have a lot of talent that we would need to do this transformation. We've been talking for 10 years. It'll be there for another 10, 15 years. We used to talk 20 years ago about IBM mainframe. Even today, large corporations, large data centers still run on IBM machines. So, transformation takes time, takes decades. So the demand for talent will be there in the foreseeable future. But a recruiter, to be successful in the space, you gain a knowledge in one area, build an expertise into it, build a pipeline of prospective candidates who have those skills. I think that makes you extremely successful as a professional recruiters in this space. Absolutely, you should jump into it. This is a great profession to be into it, because as long as you don't want to be a sourcer, you want to be a recruiter. Like a sourcer is basically you search the database and pull 5-6 matches and then reach out to the candidate. No, I think what you should do as a recruiter is understand the job, understand the industry, understand your client, talk about the job, why the job needed for it, give some perspective for the candidates. So when you talk about these things, candidates looks at you as an advisor, career advisor, career. So when they start looking at you, that you have more respect. You always talk about in your book, how to gain respect for recruiters. And I think that's what it is. You appear that you understand their technology, understand their industry, and communicate into that way, and also talk to the customers. The chances are you will be given more opportunities from clients, and you will have more candidates in your hand. It's like a perpetual, once you have into it, you get more and more and more, you become extremely successful. And this is the area I think people made big careers and in all part of my life. And I've been always recruiter in recruiting different roles in management to the lower end. I enjoy doing it, but at least I understand what role I'm looking into, why we're doing it, why customer needs this. I think if you do that, you could build great careers out of this.
Absolutely. That's a pretty nice input and a good forecasting about the future of the staffing industry, where it is heading, Samir. And just wanted to ask a question which is related to what you have said, is that how recruiters should behave. So now when I look at some posts in LinkedIn, that if recruiter says the candidate backed out, candidate says that we did not give feedback, that's always that Tom and Jerry things goes on. And again, there is already a perspective already built for the recruiters that you are bluffers, you ghost, you don't give feedback. So now it affects. Now we cannot deny this happens. It's a large industry, people like this and people like that. So now that affects the real recruiters who are really giving values. So now somewhere as a recruiter, we need to take responsibility so that we can minimize these things happening and we can have the good perceived value from the candidate's end. So the question is, where do you think the recruiter should start to revamp on their image, self-image for the candidates, that now I can trust this recruiter and recruiters are good?
No, I think it's a great question, Suman, because for a recruiter to be successful in this space, number one, understand what you're hiring for. Who are you hiring for? What is that job does for the customer, right? And you talk in the language that candidate gets connected. Also mindful that now at this time, it's a skilled candidates are scarce, right? And candidates have a lot of opportunities, right? On top of that, if you're not prepared well enough and you don't build a relationship with the candidates, I always say this, right? Candidate relationship building is an important aspect of creating such a talent pipeline that you would need to be successful, right? So if you don't, how do you build a candidate pipeline if you build a relationship with the candidates? I always say, do they have actual face in the LinkedIn? Do you put a nice LinkedIn profile, no spell mistakes, no grammar mistakes into it, right? And do you share relevant information in your LinkedIn? It doesn't matter whether you get an engagement or not. At least when people looks at your, wow, this guy girl not only talks about, but it's a nice LinkedIn profile. He has a lot of relevant information. He shares information. He talks about it. So you build that relationship. You build a trust. The trust gives you enough to start building the relationship. So unless and then you really fight for your candidate, right? I mean, let's say if they take up an interview and you don't hear from the customer, you really be a barrier. Like you fight for it, get the information, but keep in loop with the candidate. Like whatever the information, people will just go blank and people say, oh, I don't have any information. But how do that candidate know that you don't have information unless you tell the candidate that, what, I'm looking into it. Here is what I'm looking. So at least whatever you could do it, let's show the candidate that you are doing your best, getting their information and working for the candidate, right? So if you do these kind of things, then people trust you as a recruiter. You know what? These professionals change careers. Like, they move projects from 6 months to 9 months. Every time they change a project, they want to come back to you. If they trust you, they come to you, right? Like, hey, somebody like a recruiter named Raj, like, hey, Raj, I'm just getting off of the project in a month. Find out if you have any openings out there with your clients. You want that fanfare of candidates coming to you. So to do that, you have to start building the relationship, right? You're not searching in the last minute and finding some candidates and sending out an email and hope somebody will pick up those emails and then come and talk to you. It's not the case. And they have too many opportunities. Candidates have it. But you can make a difference by being very personalized, building the relationship and doing all of these things. And also being knowledgeable about the job that you are, sourcing for. I think those are kind of things really helpful for recruiter to be very successful. And they should do it.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with what you have said. And you have touched real wires, which really impacts how the candidate influence comes to the place.
Yeah.
And Samir, looking at the current situation and how the market is going, how recruiting is going, how recruiters are being hired, there are so many companies that they have openings for recruiters. Well, so do you think now the time to change the dynamics, the culture, or the way of work compared to how it was happening in the past? This question is for the recruiting companies and recruiting owners. How? For them primarily, that do you think their recruiting dynamics needs to be changed, culture or the behavior, way of their working, something? What do you think?
Yeah, again, I think it comes down to supply demand, because there are a lot more staffing agencies, recruitment companies are competing for the talent, the good talent I'm talking about, right? Because if you have the talent, then you have more customers, and you may have all customers, but you can't bring the talent, then it's just not going to be very successful to you in the long run. So how do we build a database of prospective talent that you're looking at? So you're not going to be very, so if you're a staffing agency and you go for every single role, it's very highly likely you're going to scale up, be very successful. So you want to be you want to focus on few areas, maybe a sector specific, maybe a technology specific, right? You want to be Salesforce expert, hiring Salesforce developers, or you want to be an expert in aerospace defense industry, or you want to be an expert in whatever that, right? I'm talking about. So when you build that competency internally, so that anybody, the clients that are looking for Salesforce developers or administrators, they comes to you because you are have an expertise into it, and the recruiters that work with you, they're all trained in the space, like they understand what the Salesforce, how the Salesforce helps the companies to do it, what this each role does for the company and all stuff. So I think it is important for staffing companies to build that niche markets or niche segments, and then have those recruiters get trained in those spaces. Then you become the go-to agency or a go-to recruiter for any of such roles in the market. And I think that's the one way to be fairly successful in a short time.
Awesome. That's a pretty good input from your end, Samir. And here I want you to give your thoughts and your views on those companies who deduct salaries and incentives from the recruiters.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that, because this can be just a short term, maybe gains for employers, but they are overlooking into the long term, because it's all about branding. It's all about how the agencies treat their recruiters, and especially these things with very small intrinsic value of saving some money, but I think the reputation would damage much bigger, maybe 10x bigger, of doing such things in the industry. So you could right size opportunities people, but I think because what happening is, it's even more difficult to hire a good set of candidates for the customer. You would actually wants to give them more incentive, but not the less incentive at this time.
That's pretty good incentives. I hope the company owners, the investor should listen to this. And absolutely, that is something what we look for when we spend our time thinking that this is my career, this is my future role, this is my position. But so this is a business for the investor. So here someone is putting their life there, and the investor looks at definitely that I need revenue. So that's a different ball game, and absolutely said it. Hopefully things will change sooner. And so here, Samir, if this is your personal question, I would definitely want to hear from you that how you change your perspective since you are handling multi-million dollars business, and what is your time management strategies, and please share your secrets to focus on multiple things and still make everything successful.
Yeah. No, I think good questions, man. I think it's just the passion drives everything. If you're passionate about anything that we do, you could be successful. Because at the end of the day, if we like what we do, you don't get tired. Maybe you physically get tired, but mentally you will never get tired, because you just love to do what you like to do, right? So there's two things, right? You got a physical strength and the mental strength. mental strength is much more stressful than a physical strength, right? So you could work long hours, maybe get tired physically, but I think if you like what you do, you don't get tired mentally. Then I think that's it. Another thing is, you compartmentalize, your time. Okay, in a given day, what's the priority for that week, for that day, maybe for that month, then you can just make a build a schedule of things like where I want to focus on, and just do that. End of the day, and I think you have to work hard, but there's no shortcut for this. But I think if you do what you like to do, generally you would able to manage your time well. But I think time management is critical. Work ethic is the most important aspect. I just want to talk about it. Work ethic, right? People think, oh, it's work from home. I can, I can do it. But end of the day, it's great to have work from home as an option, or it's great to have the flexibility at work at maybe a hybrid model. But irrespective of whether you work from home, work from office, or hybrid model, I think having that work ethic is very, very important. And people have very, very high work ethic when they work in an area they really likes to do it, right? If a lot of people, some people do work for a paycheck, and they'll be really waiting for, like, when I'm done my 8 hours, and they can't wait to get out of the work. Or so I think it's a very stressful. You're not able to be very successful because you don't want to think about it. You wait for the 8 hours to complete. Don't spend time on things that you don't like to do it, because we all have one life, and it's important to spend our life in the areas that we really love to do it. But you convert that into revenue for you and for your family. It's a great, because now you not only enjoy the work, but you also generate the revenue out of, income out of that. I think that's the one thing. If you kind of align yourself to the likes of you, you would come up with a different. I mean, humans are very intelligent people. I mean, generally you figure out like where I want to spend, how I want to spend, as long as you get involved yourself into the work that you really likes to do it. I think that's the key. Work ethic drives a higher productivity, but for you to be a really high work ethic, that means you have to involve in the work that you really like to do it.
That's pretty good answer. As you say, that build a business around your passion, sort of thing. That's what my mentor says. So here, to add this question, it just came to my mind. So what about in an individual who wants to work as a recruiter or currently employed, irrespective of whatever the industry is, and at the same time the person wants to monetize their passion, that their skills outside? So do you think that could be possible, and we should look at that, and the management should be okay with that if the person is delivering work there, and they want to do something outside to make money through their passion, what they love? So do you think that should come, or maybe coming in near future, Samir? What do you think?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't bring the conflict of interest, they can, people can do what they want to do it. But if they're employed for one specific job, and you go out do the same thing for others, I think that's just a borderline ethics. I wouldn't encourage doing that, because I think, when you sign up an employment, you said, you would dedicate your skills to it, and you perform. But no matter what, if you go outside, and maybe you would knowingly, unknowingly get into a servicing a firm that directly competes with your employer, I don't think that's the right thing to do. But if you have other passions, something completely unrelated to work, sure, why nobody cares about it, right? Like, it's your personal life, and you do it. But work, yeah, you got to just stick to if you sign up with an employer, you wants to do the job, you service the customer to our employer, and it has to stick to that. I mean, that's I think that's a outright plain ethics, just to stick to one job in that industry. If you're not an employee and you're a consultant, you're consulting few hours, that's okay. Again, even then consulting, if nobody would sign up to take take you into it if you're servicing to a competitor.
Absolutely. That's a pretty great input for the people who wants to do things apart from apart from their employment, what they're doing. And so just to ask a little bit more about your future goals, your future plans, Samir. So how you manage your long-term goals, short-term goals, and what do you think recruiters should have their long-term goals and short-term goals, and how they should plan?
Yeah, no, let me answer the recruiter long-term, short-term goals. I think, it's always good to have a plan and the goals for the recruiters. We always look into, right? Like, if you have a recruiter and if you have, let's say, 100 consultants would pick up a phone and call you if they're looking for a job, it's a great reputation you built into it. But how many of the recruiters build that kind of a personal relationship with the candidates? How do you build that specific knowledge that you are a go-to person for them? So I think these are the kind of things that helps them not only make you a successful recruiter, but you would be a mentor for a lot of other people. That would eventually gives you more opportunities to go up in the chain in the business, right? And then you would that would give you more opportunities. You become you make more money basically, and also you become more successful in doing it. So they should it's good to have a goal set for 6 months, 1 month, 3-year goals, and just to work towards that. And again, each ones are different. We can't speak for everybody, but I think it's just good to have the set goals into place. But in my case, I think what we're trying to do for the next year or two, we're trying to build a tech stack that helps the recruiters to allow the time to do more time spent with the candidates, right? There are a lot of if you look into the whole recruiters the life cycle, a lot of things goes towards follow-ups and searching candidates, sort through the relevance, all of these things, right? There's a lot of technology out there. We're building technology that helps them cut through all that clutter, but gives you more time to spend to actually build a relationship with the candidates. End of the day, it's all people, right? So if the recruiter works on like a 2 jobs, 2 requisitions they got into it, and let's say the employer asks for submit 10 resumes on each, or 5 resumes, I'm just saying 5 resumes per job, you have 10 resumes to work on it, right? So if you spend in a week, I'm just talking about a week, right? If you spend 4 days in searching a right candidates and okay, now I got these five best candidates, you only have 1 day to reach out and talk to them and all that. You really don't have any time. It's becoming very transactional, right? But if you have a technology tools that you can use to get that list in a 1 day, you have 4 days to build a relationship with the candidates, talk to them, understand their expectations, and talk about the opportunities that you have, map them, build a relationship, and all of that stuff. It helps them to be more successful. I think it's important that's why we're focused on it. Like, how do we extend our technology platforms and tools that helps to recruiters, give them more time in hand? So take away all of those recurring, repetitive tasks. Also bring a lot of intelligence into it, so that they have more information about the candidates. They have more information about the about the job. Let's say, for an example, they're servicing a client for like 2 years, 3 years, and they know for a specific job. Let's say if their job ABC, they've been supporting, the client has been hiring for last 2 years. Let's say you made 10 placements in last 2 years, successful placements, but you have no information about why those are 10 successful placements. Is that because of the job? Is that because of proximity, location of the employer? Is that just because of whatever the information, right? But what if the technology gives you, hey, you have made 10 placements for this job in the last 2 years. Here is why these are 10 are successful hires. And then if you have that information, then you can actually look into who meets this kind of a criteria, and then you can pin down 1 or 2 and really spend more time and build a relationship and make it very successful. So that intelligence that we were planning on providing more, like basically more ammunition, more tools to the recruiters to become very successful into it. The more the data you have in hand, the more insights you have into it, the more you become successful. If the recruiters don't work with the technology and the tools today, it's very highly unlikely they'll be very successful.
Interesting. That's a great insights. Absolutely. And yeah, we have to match what is that coming for us. It's just not, I don't want to change, then I'll just be a dinosaur, one point of time.
Yeah.
I'll just stay with that skeletons. Maybe someone will find some after some 1,000 years. Definitely, right. Sir. We need to be adaptable to the change.
Yeah.
And a final question, that there are so many freshers coming into market, and there are final year students, they are there, and people due to the pandemic, they lost their job and they want to get into recruiting industries. So what would be your advice for those people?
Yeah, get a book like Nail the Deal. Go start, it's a great information. I think, what, you have to start somewhere, buy a book and get the training from the experts. And because what happens is, I'll tell you, you could learn this in 2 years, but you can read a book, get a training, and you can learn in 2 months. And probably more information you get into it, right? It's the time is the money. If you want to really get trained and really understand the business, there are a lot of sources like, you have great book written, Nail the Deal, and they should actually buy one, read the book, and maybe get onto one of your training programs and understand. I think, that's the one, right? Understand the dynamics of working in, and then improve the communication skills, business etiquettes. You talk about a lot too of those kind of things. So I think there's no shortcut, right? I mean, get trained yourself, be ready for it. And fortunately, there is huge demand for recruiters in the industry, especially for India, right? And what an opportunity for someone who wants to get into this industry. All they have to do is spend 2 months, buy a book, get on the coaching program, and then just be ready and start taking up the interviews. There are tons of companies wants to hire you, even having a basic knowledge about it. It's a great time to get into it. I hope they would make use of your programs. I love it. I've seen it. Get great feedback from our team. So, Suman, I think you should take a lot of pride, putting a lot of people into this profession. And I'm seriously saying, I think they should read the book, Nail the Deal.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so very much. This is a great compliment or a review or anything, sir. Thank you so very much. And thank you so much once again, because it's like a blessing hearing these kind of words. And I'm overwhelmed. So before we end, do you think there should be something that people should know, and that is what we have not discussed, and something that you think that we should know as a recruiters or company owners or consulting companies, Samir, from your point of view?
I think, I always talk to my teams and, my colleagues, my friends around, just like, hey, do whatever that you're passionate about it. Just because your brother got into recruitment, your cousin works as a recruiter, so he wants to do it. Don't do that, because it won't make you very successful. And don't chase your own dream. Don't chase somebody else's dreams. If you chase your own dream, if that dream is wants to become a recruiter, wants to work in the staffing industry, wants to work with services industry, whatever it was he wants to do it, that's your own dream. You're not chasing somebody's dream.
Yes, absolutely. I'm definitely going to add this. And one more thing, I would definitely want to know that how do you maintain your charm and your energy? Because you look young year on year. What do you do, Chief?
No. So thank you for that. But, I think again, I'm just saying, stress kills people, right? So if you do a job that's super stressful because you just don't like it, you just can't wait to finish your 8-hour work, that's when you would see people get really, drained out, right? But pick a job that you really likes to do it. And because the passion takes you off the stress on you. And I think when you do more what you like, you would stay the same. And also that radiates the passion for other people, and they start to like you, they want to follow you. There are a lot of things that do that, but you could influence yourself to your own family members, kids and stuff, and then outside, you were obsessively passionate about what you do. It, I think that's what I do. That's what whatever I do, I'm obsessively passionate about the stuff. I spend long hours. I work very hard, but I do because I likes to do it. And I just joke around. Weekend holidays, 2 days is good enough. You get more than 2 days, I get bored. I just don't like too many holidays for myself. Not everybody's same. I spend time with family and all of the stuff, but I just love to do what I like to do. So I really enjoy long, unless I travel, which I love to travel around. But sitting home and taking a holidays and it's just not me. So because I like what I do, that's my secret to it is I only do what I like to do it, and I that's my secret.
Yes, thank you so very much for sharing that. And yes, you were an employee one point of time. Now you are a self-made entrepreneur. So how did you build that muscle? How did you build that muscle, Samir?
No, I think there's no shortcut. I mean, people see it as being a successful entrepreneur, but nobody realize what went behind it, right? And there's so much that goes behind into it, right? I think you stay very resilient. You take all the stress, uncertainties, everything. I mean, there's another book we has to go through that. But I mean, but I think people don't realize that how much it goes into it. You take a lot of risks. You put everything in line. Your money, your life, your career, and then you come out successful. People say, oh yeah, you could do it, I can do it. But but I think what people don't see it is what happened behind the scenes, right? And those are kind of things that it's hard to people to see it. But again, we all take inspiration from other successful people in our lives. So I think I have few. That's it. I mean, basically, you would just do what you like to do. Again, same thing. And you take chances, you take risks, right?
How do you pick yourself up, Samir, when you are really fell down and you think that it looks like doors are closed, I may have to go back, and how do you pick up from yourself from that situation when you have walked thus far? Now the heart within says that do not give up, but circumstances says that's it. How do you pick up from that
Everybody
situation?
goes
That
through
ever
it.
happened with you though?
Everyone goes through that. Everyone goes through it at a certain point. Why am I doing this? And is this really the right thing for me? I think it's just we're all humans, right? And people said, "Oh, I never had it." They're probably lying through their teeth. And I think everybody goes through that. But again, I'm just saying, being a resilient, right? Like you got to believe, you got to trust yourself, and then you take extreme risks. You take chances. If you do that, and people are very risk averse in putting their jobs, putting their paycheck at risk. They just but and if you see that as just a no big deal, then it may open up opportunities, or it may drain you out, and then you start all over again. And that the thought of doing all over again is just scares the people off. But when you really on the lowest point, I think it's just think through it. What can we do in this situation? What is the best case, best outcome? What is the outcome? How do we start all over again? I mean, this is stuff like that. I think it happens to all people. It doesn't matter you're an entrepreneur, you're an employee, or you are your management, you're an executive. It doesn't matter. I think everybody goes through that. But I think you just dust it off and get up and just keep running again.
All right.
If you're a runner, you fell down, you don't just be lay on the floor and weeping, right? You don't do that. You just quickly get off, you dust it off yourself, and just keep running again. It's the same thing.
All right. Thank you so very much for this inputs, and thank you very much for staying such a long time. And as I tell all the time when I talk to the people, when I listen to Samir, I keep listening, keep listening. So obviously there is a time constraint, and I would love to invite once again Samir, and thank you so very much for adding your values and sharing your wisdom. And hopefully I would like to connect with you once again. Thank you so very much, Chief.
Yeah, good luck 2022, Suman. Continue to do what you're doing it. You inspire thousands of recruiters, and just keep it up. And when you see a lowest point, dust it off and keep running. Thanks so much.
Thank you so very much, and it inspires a lot. Thank you so much, Chief. All right, let me go.
The tech stack is really about how do we bring the efficiency to the recruiters, and what information can we give it to them? How is that be helpful to the recruiters to have all that information in hand when talk to the candidate, right? And those are kind of things that we always look into it. What else can we give one piece of information, one additional piece of information about the candidate to the recruiters, right? Can we give that additional hour of time to the recruiter so they can spend more time with the candidate? End of the day, we're human to human interaction, right?
Yes.
People have this perception that AI is come and replace the recruiters. No, there's nothing. I think it just brings the more efficiency to the recruiters because they give more time to the recruiters and they can spend time with the candidates. AI cannot spend time with the candidates. It's a machine to human. It doesn't work like that, right? So what we try to do is let's automate a lot of behind the scene tasks, give more insights about the candidate, give more insights about the job, give more insights about the employer. Keep all that information. When you pick up a phone and talk to the candidate, you have all this information. I think that there's a good chance that you would build a great relationship with the candidate because nobody else has been talking to them just like the way you have that information in hand. So that would put you on top of their list that if there's another opportunity that I want to look for, he is my recruiter or she is my recruiter that I'm going to pick up a phone and call them. That's how you build a relationship. That's how you make it extremely successful recruitment career.
And yes, this is this is something like collaboratively that we should do, right, Chief? That it's not only recruiters that can just have that magic wand and things happen. So it's the recruiter and the hiring manager and the candidate. So where our limitation dies, right? I mean, within you and me, that recruiter's limitation dies at certain place. We can do that much only. Then we rely on the hiring manager. So that part is not being solved at many places. As I talk to recruiters, that if that person moves a little bit, then we'll have a lot of information coming. And I think we need more support from the hiring managers end. So do you think that will be solved in near future, or it's all about the mindset game?
I think it should be because I think, hiring managers are the account managers who are supporting to the end client, right? And I think this is very true because the information that comes from the client to the account manager to the recruiter, every time there is a one roadblock, it's more information get filtered out, it get less information to the recruiter. But if the organization set up in such a way that information flows to the recruiter through whatever is the channel they have, I think it's a process where they set up process in place, give that information to the recruiter, have a way to find that information to the recruiter, and the recruiter in turn go back and give that information to the candidate and then keep the candidate warm and be informed. I think it helps the organization to bring more closures just because it's good for the organization to have that information to the recruiter. More information to the recruiter, that means the more information goes to the candidate, because at the end of the day, account manager or the resource manager are not the ones who are actually getting in touch with the candidate. It's the recruiter who's been in touch with the candidate, right? So why you want to hold that information? Give more information to the recruiter. Maybe that can be passed through You have a recruitment automation platform, capture all the information in the system so that recruiter can see it and pass that information to it. So I think it has to find a ways. Tools and process are a key to have that seamless information flowing from the end client to the recruiter with a minimal leakage of information.
No, absolutely. That will help our recruiters a long way. That's what I was talking about, though. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that here. And anybody else, do you think that recruiters should listen, Chief? Would you like to recommend anybody else? Please do that as well, so that I'd love to connect and get their wisdom and share it through.
Absolutely.
All right.
But thank you. Thanks so much.
I should thank you, and we all the viewers would be thankful to have you on this platform. And once again, thank you so very much, and a happy new year, sir.
Happy new year. Thank you. Bye.
You take care. Bye-bye.